All right, we are live. We'll give it just a second here. Wait for the algorithm, or not the algorithm, wait for YouTube to catch up. I know a lot of people have to get through a little ad first before they actually get to the live stream. So thanks so much for joining us tonight. We are going to talk about the spring garden again. I'm going to show you all the seeds that I have selected for this year. Still waiting for a couple things to come in, but I'll kind of tell you what they are and or where I'm getting them from. But I basically almost have everything. So we'll just show you what we're doing. Show you a couple new things we're trying, some things that I'm on the fence about, and you can tell me whether or not you've tried them and you think they're any good. I like learning from you guys. So hopefully the audio is okay. I have trouble with my phone microphone, so I'm using an external mic, so hopefully it sounds okay. Let me know if it's too loud or too soft, and I can adjust that as best as I can. But I almost didn't think I was going to make it to the live stream here at the last minute. In case you don't know, chickens and ducks and birds have a pecking order for which they go into a coop, and it has to go in order. You can't skip the order, okay? I don't know why, just what the birds do. And the ducks decided tonight that they were not going into the coop, and they do this every once in a while, and my theory is it has to do with the moon. It's almost a full moon. I think it makes it so bright that they don't feel the need to go into the coop, and they'd rather sit out and wade in their little pond. But they decided they were not going into the coop tonight, which meant that the geese would not go into the coop, and they were all literal sitting ducks out in the middle of the field, and you can hear the coyotes on like the hills and mountains behind us. And I'm like, I cannot leave you guys outside the coop because you were going to all die tonight. So spent 10 minutes chasing them into the coop. Almost missed the live stream, but luckily they are in there now and everybody is locked up safe, because those coyotes are getting hungry. We had a big snow, had like 4 or 5 inches. Kids loved it, but it means there's not much on the ground for the predators to get, so they are definitely thinking some chicken or duck or geese is pretty tasty. So all right, Adele is here. They're getting ready for some spring weather. That's awesome. We had some real winter weather this week, and it's supposed to be a little bit warmer for the next few days, which is nice. The kids and I spent a lot of the day outside this afternoon because it was really nice. Grammy is here. Empty Nester is here. Arkansas Prepper is here. It's calm but 45. Yeah, it's going to drop down tonight. It's going to be in the 20s, so I'll have to restart the fire behind me for the night, but it was warm enough today that we let it die. Lois is here. Becky from Louisiana. Camp Momo, welcome. Pam is here. Daisy said, what about a livestock guardian dog? So if you've been a long-time viewer, you know that we used to have a Great Pyrenees. We've had a couple, actually. One of them was very old, and we kept him until he passed away just because he was ancient. But the other 2 we got as puppies with the idea that they would replace him. Just could not keep them on our property. We tried physical fencing. They dug under it, jumped over it. We tried like the electric collar fencing. They didn't care about the zap, went right through it. And our neighbor continuously complained about our dogs, which doesn't, I understand. He doesn't want our dogs on his property. So we do not have guardian livestock dogs because with only 10 acres, they have no interest in staying that close to the house. They are roaming dogs. So we do have a dog. She's a mutt and she spends days outside, but she sleeps inside most nights because she's kind of spoiled. So no outside dogs right now to protect chickens because we couldn't keep them from annoying our neighbors. And I understand, it's not our neighbor's job to keep an eye on our dogs or have our dogs trespassing on their property. So the tinkerer's wife is here and J&B is here. Welcome. Nana's here. And yeah, too bad about the pups. Yeah, that was really hard. We had to get rid of them. We had to give them away because our neighbor was really upset, which again, I understand. That really broke the kids' hearts because they really liked those dogs. But that was probably 5 years ago, and try to be responsible pet parents, and so we're not going to repeat that mistake with another similar breed dog. So now we have a medium-sized kind of mutt dog. And she's real good at digging up moles, which is great for my garden. She finds moles and mice and gets them for us, but she is not a outdoor livestock. She's not going to sit out with the sheep. So to compensate for that, we lock all of our animals up at night, which has worked really well for us. And True Joy is here. Welcome. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Sam is not here. Obviously, he had to work today, unfortunately. You'll see more of him. This month was kind of weird. He ended up working a bunch of Mondays. So But in the future, it shouldn't be, I don't see any Mondays coming up on the schedule, so you should be seeing them again real soon. Ann said, thanks goodness we have a high fenced area the ducks and chickens are in. We have lots of coyotes around. Our dog likes to roam the property at night and sleep inside most of the day. Okay. We don't have, we have our Premier One fence, which is electric poultry netting, and it works pretty well. We don't keep it plugged in though in the winter. We just lock everything up. So in the spring, especially when we have chicks, we'll plug that in, and then you have two kind of layers of defense. You have the electric fence and then a physical coop. It's kind of two layers of defense against any predators that are really determined to get some chicks. So J&B's, good girl on the moles. Yeah, she actually she tears up the yard a bit doing it, but I haven't had any moles in my garden, so I'll take that. Let's see, the Ball family is here. Welcome. Seth wants to know the dog's name. The dog's name is Lexi, and we adopted her when she was probably 3, maybe. And so she's been a great dog. She's really patient with the kids. Not that our kids are really mean to the dog, but it gets loud here. That doesn't bother her, and she just always seems to be she loves to go on walks, loves to run around outside. She was already kennel trained and outside trained when we got her. Didn't have to do any of that, so she fit right in. And she generally leaves the animals alone, except for our barn cats, which she keeps in their place, so that's helpful too. So let's see. Let's talk about seeds. So the garden this year, we're sticking with the no-till garden and the raised beds. I built a 3rd raised bed today with Ivy and JJ's help, so we have 3 now instead of 2, so that's going to expand. And so in the raised beds, the first things that we're going to plant is going to happen in mid-March, and that's our cold weather vegetables and root vegetable type items. So I'll show you what's going in that first bed. It's pretty straightforward. So the first thing I always do is onion sets, and I actually buy those. Hey, Grandpa Dan's here. Thanks for joining us, Grandpa Dan. I buy the onion sets actually at our local grocery store, which I know sounds really weird, but for some reason every spring they always have seed potatoes and onion sets and things like that for a really good price in the grocery store. And so I always do some red, yellow, and white onions, and I'll plant those in a raised bed this year, which I think is going to go really well. And interspersed between those onions, I'm going to plant spinach. So this is the spinach. This is a giant leaf spinach, and fold it. I used some of this in the greenhouse, and it did really well. So I'm going to plant some of it outside. See if I can. It's already, I opened it on the bottom, so I'm trying not to have all the seeds fall out. But this is a giant leaf spinach, and it has a really nice flavor, and it also, it holds up really well compared to the baby spinach when you can it or freeze it, because it's just bigger. And so we're going to plant these again. And then we'll also in the same bed around the outside, I'm going to plant a few radishes. I don't do a lot of radishes because I'm the only one who likes them, though some of you told me to put them in a crock pot with a roast. So we're going to try that with some radishes coming up to see whether I can convince some children to eat some radishes. And then we will also intersperse just some basic Danvers half-long carrots. So these are not fancy varieties. I think all of these seeds I got at the dollar store. So these are not, I have some cool ones coming up, but these are just pretty typical. But that all will go in an early spring bed, and here we'll plant that 2nd week of March. You're aiming for somewhere around 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost date, because those vegetables are all frost hardy, and they need, especially the onions need cold weather to bulb. If you plant them too late, they will just shoot up and you'll get huge green stalks, which you could still eat. They're still good for things, but you won't get your nice big bulb to save over winter. I learned that a few years ago. I planted onions too late, and I thought they were going to be some huge onions with how big the greens were on top, and the onions actually never grew because they didn't have enough cold weather to encourage the bulb formation. So if you didn't know that, now you do. J&B says hit the thumbs up. Yeah, if you think about it, give us a thumbs up. It does help the channel. And Tinker's wife, do the blindfold taste test with the kids. Offer award if they resist. Our kids always like, that's how I get them to try things. We make it a competition. They either, whoever tries the biggest bite wins, or like a taste test with a blindfold. They don't know which one it is. They always think stuff like that's fun. So I might do that with them. Camp Momo says, have you tried roasting radishes in the oven? I have not. I like raw radishes just dipped in ranch. I like that they're a little spicy, but kids hate them because they're a little bit spicy. So maybe we'll have to do radishes 3 ways or something and do a taste test for fun. Judith says, for the novice non-homesteader, do tomatoes, it's the stupid heart thing. There it is. Do tomatoes grow better hung or on ground? That's a great question, Judah. Thanks for asking. It's going to depend on your variety. So when you look at the plants in the store or in a seed catalog, you're going to want to look for tomatoes that say container, usually even a picture of the plant in a container ready. And those will do great on your porch. If you want to hang them, you can do that. Some people even grow them in those like upside down baskets, but that has to be a container variety tomato. Those tomatoes do not need a lot of root space, and so they will flourish even in a it's still a large container, but even in a container. And so, but if you want to grow a large variety, so your big beefsteak slicer tomato for your hamburger, you're going to need to put that in the ground because it's going to need root space and it's going to get huge. Daisy says, do you do starts for tomatoes? Sometimes I am not. I talked about this a couple weeks ago, I think. Not doing any inside starts this year for seeds. I'm going to buy my tomatoes and my peppers already started, and everything else is going to be direct sow. Because with a toddler, we always have a toddler, but Pat, Mr. P, is specifically on ornery, as they say. I don't trust them not to dump them all over, and I'm going to sit down and nurse the baby or turn around for a second, and 3 weeks of hard work will be all over the floor. So I don't have a place, because since our greenhouse is not heated, I don't have a place to keep them where they can be out of the way of little people's reach. So we're not going to do that frustration. We're not going to set ourselves up for failure or temptation for the little man. And so we're just going to buy our pre-started tomatoes, but we have started them before. Especially if you want to start tomatoes and peppers, it can be worth your while to invest a little money in I think they're called a heat mat, especially peppers. If the dirt is not warm and if it doesn't have good humidity, so it's not nice and wet, they'll never start. You'll put them in the dirt and you'll be like, my seeds never started. It's because it wasn't warm enough, probably not wet enough. Beeler family says, okay, hear me out. If you like mayo, a radish and mayo sandwich is the best. I do. I love mayonnaise. Fun fact, mayonnaise is one of the only foods Sam will not eat. And it can't be anything with mayonnaise in it. Like he will not eat cold pasta salads or egg salad or chicken salad or tuna salad, which makes my heart very sad because I love all of the above things. I make myself chicken salad or tuna salad for lunch like 2 or 3 days a week. Like that's what I like, but he does not like mayonnaise. And he says he doesn't like slimy salad is what he says, or slimy sandwiches. So Judah, or Tinker's wife says, Judah, if you grow the big toms in the ground, it's best to put them on a trellis. Avoid the little cone-shaped ones though. Yeah, those little, I think the cone-shaped ones are specifically meant for peppers. I always underestimate every year how big a tomato plant gets, and how many years have I been growing tomatoes? Forever. They get huge. It is worth your while to set up an actual trellis system with like a cattle panel where you can keep tying them up, because tomatoes are just giant, especially the slicer tomatoes. You start with this itty bitty plant, it is going to be much bigger than you ever imagined. Beeler family says, and we thought Sam was flawless. I know, and this is not something I knew about Sam until we got married, and it may have been a deal breaker because I really like some mayonnaise. So and the other funny thing is things with similar texture to mayonnaise don't bother him. I mean, if he eats a burrito, he slathers the sour cream on it. So he's not here to defend himself, so I can just make fun of him for it. But mayonnaise is on his no-no list. And it's probably the only thing that, everybody has things that aren't their favorite, but he'll eat it. Mayonnaise is probably the only thing that he just like hands down will not eat. So the tinkerer's wife said, those heat mats are a game changer with peppers. I start mine on moist paper towels and plastic bags. Yes, that's a great germination tip. On top of a heat mat, fast germination, then plant in soil that's at least room temp. Yep, the heat and the humidity is peppers will just not start without it. J&B said, those little cones work for my bush snow peas, but nothing else. Yeah, I use them for my smaller variety peppers, like my jalapeno plants. Those pepper plants don't get giant. I use them just to help keep them from bending over. Even though those plants don't technically need support, I just find if it's gonna, if we have bad weather or something, the cone-shaped trellises just give them more support so they don't get blown over in a storm. Beeler family says if you have space limits, grow a determinate tomato variety will only get about 3 to 4 foot naturally. And determinate means, you have to remind me, that means that they give all year. Is that right? You can correct me if I'm wrong. But some plants, they give you you get like all your fruit or vegetables at one time or in a close cluster, and some continually give all growing season. Do the kids have dad's mayo avoidant gene? Some of them do. Some of them don't. I've actually... my kids are, I won't say weird. They're still little, so their taste buds aren't fully developed. But, like, they don't want sauce on their sandwiches, condiments. Like, except for a hamburger, they want ketchup. But, like, they all like turkey and cheese or ham and cheese sandwiches, and they don't want mustard or anything on it. Like, they just want it dry, which I don't like that. That's really dry. But I'll see what happens when they get older and they expand their repertoire a bit. But so far, I think Micah's the only one who just is big no on mayonnaise. But she's also a little bit just of a picky eater in general. So let's see. Determinate self-limit how tall they'll get. Okay, but we'll set fruit about like non-determinate. They will grow and grow and grow. Oh, I gotcha. Okay. All right. So that's the cold bed. That'll go. That's the first thing. And then once you plant that where we are, we've got like a month where you just sit around and twiddle your thumbs because you can't really do anything. And then it gets really busy because you have to plant like everything at the same time. So I'm actually going to start with the fun ones first. These are on my maybe list and I haven't decided. And so you can tell me if you've ever tried any of these and if they're worth, the effort to grow, because I have definitely grown things that I thought would be really cool. And they were super boring or just not worth the effort that it took to grow them. So the first one, these seeds, by the way, that I'm going to show you are from our viewer Anne, who sent me a box that had some really neat seeds in it. So I've pulled out a few that I'm on the fence about whether I want to try this year or put them aside and maybe try a different year when the garden's even bigger. So the first one is tomatillos, and I know you use these for salsa verde, but I'm curious if anybody grow these? Are these easy to grow? And do you find that they're like worth the effort to grow versus just kind of using your green tomatoes, which is what I do, as a sub for these in salsa verde? Like, what else do you use these for? So I'd be curious what people's opinions are on these. The next are these real neat looking dragon tongue beans. And these, believe it or not, these are huge, but these are bush beans. These don't have to be supported. But from what I understand, these are a dry bean. So you're not going to eat them like a green bean. These are more like you have to shell them and eat them like a pinto bean. And so I'm just curious if anybody has grown these and if the actual bean, like if you enjoy eating them and how you enjoy eating them. Let's see. Tinkerer's family says, I've grown them. That's the tomatillos. They're pretty easy. Grow 2 plants for best fruiting. Okay. And then the last one, this one is kind of like the hippie cool thing, I feel like, right now in the homesteading community. Everybody grows these just because they're cool, but it doesn't mean that they're worth growing just because people think they're cool. And that's the Loofah gourd. So you grow these, you let them dry off, and then you peel the skin off the inside, and you get like a organic loofah to use in the shower. I don't know what else you're going to scrub with them besides yourself. Maybe you could do the dishes with them. So tell me what you think. Has anybody grown these too? These would need to be trellis too, which is a little bit more work. But if, the girls might think that's really cool if they're not too hard. Also, if anybody's grown these, let me know if squash bugs like these, because that's a concern. We always try to limit the number of plants that need attention from squash bugs because it's a lot of work keeping squash bugs off plants around here. So I limit what I plant that's at risk so that I don't have a lot of extra work to do. So let's see. Beeler family says, oh my, a couple vine of loofah will be all you care to deal with. Okay, so does one seed, like, do you get a lot off of it? Is that what you're saying? And loofah can be eaten when young too, so maybe worth growing. Okay, I didn't know that you could eat them. I'd have to do some more. I'm assuming it maybe is like is it like a yellow squash, or is it more like a spaghetti squash where it like peels apart like noodles? Tell me. That's new for me. I've only ever like watched just other channels when they grow them and they've dried them and then they turn them into a loofah sponge for like the shower. So, okay. So, Catherine says, I grew the loofah last year. They were the most fun thing I've grown so far. Didn't have squash bugs. Okay, good to know. And Becky says, we did loofah just for the first time last year, but they didn't do well. Gonna try again this year. Okay, well, maybe we'll try them. The girls just might think that's cool, so. All right, so the first raised bed I showed you, these things that I showed you those would be direct sow into the ground. We've not put those in a bed. But the second raised bed would be just bush beans. And I have a friend who worked at a garden store last year, and they had a box come in that kind of exploded. And so their manager let them take seeds home. And so these are just random variety of bush beans. I don't know what they are, but they were very kind to give them to me. And I planted a bunch of them last year, and they did great. And well, actually, funny story, I'll talk about that. But I'm going to do it again this year, and that'll be a whole raised bed of just bush beans. Because I liked having them up high. It made them really easy to pick and turn over to find all those beans that managed to like disappear into the leaves. Let's see. Beeler family said, we planted about a dozen and picked several totes full of them. Squash bugs seemed not too interested. Okay, that's good that we don't have to worry about that. Suzanne says, I've grown the loofah. No squash bugs, gorgeous big yellow flowers, like using them in the shower. Tried to eat them, but they were nasty tasting. Okay, and Catherine says they have very long grow time, so should be started soon. Yeah, I think I read you got to start them. They're not frost hardy. Yeah, got to basically start them on your last frost date, and then pick them in it looks like you pick them in September. Let's see. Anne says, I used the dragon beans as a green beans and even can them. Okay, the loofah sponge can be used to do dishes. So the dragon beans, Anne, because I'm curious, they're purple and yellow. When you cook them, do they stay purple and yellow or do they turn green? Because we grew purple beans one year, but when you cooked them, they turned green, which was really interesting. So by the time they got on the table, they didn't look any different than regular beans. Funny story about the bush beans. So last year, if you guys remember, we planted beans 3 times because we had drainage problems in the garden, and 2 of the times that killed them, and the 3rd time I had too much compost in the raised bed and it burned them alive. So made a lot of mistakes last year with the green beans. But what happened is when I was planting for the last time, Isla really wanted to help, but she kept walking all over my plants and it was kind of in the way. And so I gave her just a little cup of the green beans and told her to go plant them just like in this little area. And she just like kind of dumped them and kicked them around and then was done. Those are the only beans that grew. Like the ones that my then 2.5 or 3-year-old just like dumped on the ground and forgot about, and they were never watered, and they were like right next to the grass. They weren't even in like turned over soil, and we got like 3 dinners worth of green beans out of that pile. So sometimes the harder you try, the worse things turn out. But this year I know they'll do great. We fixed the issue with the raised bed. We have better drainage, and I'm not going to overcompensate with compost this year. So we should be able to get a good harvest of green beans. The hard part about anytime you change how you garden, like we did last year, trying a lot of new things, is you're going to make a lot of mistakes. You just got to forgive yourself and move on and learn from those mistakes and not let it discourage you. We had a lot of successes last year. Green beans was not one of them. So we'll be planting those bush beans, and then we're also going to plant some pole beans because I'm going to do another Three Sisters garden, which is something I do every few years. And so from that same exploded box of seeds, my friend gave me some corn, and there are some random peas in here, which I'll probably just plant with the corn. They can grow up the corn stalk. But the Three Sisters garden is sweet corn, some sort of squash, which grows around the corn stalks and helps keep the weeds down, which is nice. So we're going to do both pumpkins and butternut saved from last year's seeds. And then you do pole beans that grow up the corn stalks. So Kentucky Blue is my favorite variety of pole beans, but I have some just kind of random packs of different varieties, and I don't want to let anything go to waste. So we're just going to do a couple different varieties. Here's one of these. This is just lawn and garden. So I probably picked this up at like the farm store. And we'll just grow a couple different varieties. And you can plant a couple green beans seeds around the stalk of the corn, maybe 3 or 4, and then they'll grow up the corn stalk. And you'll be able to pick the beans off the corn stalk. You don't have to do any extra work. Let's see, Prep for Eternity is here. Welcome. Anne says the dragon beans lose most of their purple and stay yellow. Okay, I like them raw too. JB said, yeah, she'll have a green thumb. Yeah, she either has a green thumb or she got incredibly lucky. We'll see which one. Dean Family Acres is here. Welcome. Thanks for stopping by. The Tinkerer's Wife says tender green is a good one. Good to know. And yes, welcome Prep for Eternity. Thanks for joining us. The Three Sisters Garden, if that's something that you're interested in trying, there's a couple different configurations, but the idea is that you plant the corn first. And once the corn is probably like 5 or 6 inches tall, you direct sow your squash plants. So any kind of vining squash, pumpkin, butternut, spaghetti squash, which sometimes is called winter squash, anything that's going to vine out and just cover the ground, that's next. Don't plant them at the same time because your squash will grow so fast that your corn might not get enough sun. You need to make sure your corn has some good height to it. And then usually I wait, and once the squash sprout and have their 3 leaves, which is going to be a week to 10 days later, then I go ahead and plant those pole beans around the base of the corn plants. And then by the time the pole beans are started growing up, your corn is pretty tall and it's able to sustain the weight of the growing pole bean. And that's how you do it. Let's see. Tinker's Beeler Farm says the corn likes nitrogen, the beans fix into the soil. Yes, they also complement each other's needs in the soil, and it helps to not, like monoculture gardening can really deplete your soil. And so with the squash, the beans, and the corn, they're all giving and taking different things from your soil, which helps keep the soil more balanced and healthier. So Prep for Eternity is, hello, Tinker's Wife, and J&B. Yes, thank you everybody for joining us. So that's the Three Sisters Garden, which goes directly into one side of the garden. And then on the other side of the garden, we're going to have our final items, which is just kind of a hodgepodge of things that I always like to grow because we eat them. And the first one is cantaloupe, because Ivy could eat her weight in cantaloupe every single day. So I always grow a few cantaloupe plants. And then we love pickles around here. And so I have 2 varieties of cucumber. One was a freebie from Baker's Creek, and one Anne sent us, which I have not tried. So we're going to try this. These are both trellising cucumbers, so they will grow up. And these are both smaller pickling cucumbers because I really like pickles. I think I've already said that, but I will just eat pickles as a side, and I put them on the sandwich too. So I have a recipe for sweet and spicy jalapeno and cucumber pickles, which are the bomb, and I eat a case of them every year, so we have to make sure we plant our cucumbers. And last year I did not plant any yellow or zucchini squash because I still had tons of jars in the pantry from the year before, but this year it is eaten up. So more zucchini. Not going to do yellow squash, just some zucchini plants. Remember, with your zucchini, you may think, oh gosh, they gave me 10 seeds in this packet. I should plant all 10. Unless you want to eat 600 zucchini, don't do that to yourself. 2 or 3 plants is going to give you lots of zucchini. And another tip or trick, this will depend on where you live, but where we live, I know that if I wait to direct sow my zucchini until the 1st of June, it helps tremendously with the squash bugs. If you start inside where we live, if you start your zucchini inside so you can put it outside the last week of April, first week of May when the frost is over, they get really big by the end of May, and that is when the squash bugs are out looking to make squash bug babies, and they will just destroy your plants, and they are very hard to keep on top of. But if you wait so that they don't get real big until the end of June, beginning of July, squash bugs are still around, but they're less aggressive. It's much easier to stay on top of them. And I don't spray for bugs. All I do with squash bugs is morning and night, right at dawn and dusk when the sun is just coming up or going down. It's when they're most active, and I just go out and I pick them right off the plants, drown them in some soapy water, and just doing that every day until usually about the end of August. Keeps them from killing the plants. I won't say it's perfect, that you don't ever get eggs that hatch or something, but it keeps them under control, and you'll get plenty of squash off your plants. Becky says fire and ice pickles are so good. I know. I love things that are both spicy and sweet. Dean Family Acres says, have you tried cinnamon pickles? I have not. And that sounds something my mom would love. My mom loves cinnamon. So if you have a recipe or if you have a video with the recipe, please feel free to link it here so we can grab it later. Always looking to try something new. I just do sweet, spicy pickles, and then I also do dill pickles because I like a good dill pickle. So Angela's here. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. And yes, Dean Family, if you have a link it so we can try your pickles. So, yeah, Adele, thank you. If you think about it, thumbs up. It does help us in the algorithm a bit. So, I will also plant tomatoes, and I will plant jalapenos, and I will plant banana peppers, and I will plant just regular green bell peppers. But as I said earlier, I'm not starting any seeds indoors. And where we are, you don't want to direct sow those because by the time they're ready to be picked, you're going to be getting pretty close to frosting, so you won't be able to enjoy a lot. So I will buy those as starts from, the nursery or the farm store, kind of wherever I find them, wherever I'm at. So I don't have seeds for those, and that is totally okay. It is more expensive to buy the starts, but your mental health or the time that you have are all things to take into consideration when thinking about how you want to do seeds. And as I've said, starting seeds inside this year just isn't a good setup for us. So the very last thing is something that Ivy begged to do. She loves strawberries. We've tried growing strawberries a few years, and we have a hard time with the weeds. 2 years in a row, our goats broke into the garden and killed our strawberry plants that I worked very hard to keep the weeds under control. And that was heartbreaking. And then we no longer have that naughty goat. She is not here anymore. And so last year, we tried growing strawberries direct sow and just could not stay on top of the weeds. So this year, on our last raised bed, we're going to do strawberries. And Ivy is in charge of them. And she really wants to try starting them from seeds. So this says you can direct sow them. I'd be interested if anybody has done that. Maybe they do have to be started inside, which I guess we'll figure out because she really wants to make it her project and I want to encourage that. But has anybody direct sowed strawberry plants and did it work okay for you? I know that doing them in a raised bed, you're gonna have to stay on top of the runners because they'll run themselves out of room pretty quick. But I'm hoping by doing a raised bed and straw, those things all together will keep the weeds from choking them and keep it from being such a big task to stay on top of the weeds. Excuse me. Let's see. Rosanna's here. Welcome. Dean Family says, haven't done a video yet. We'll have to put that on the to-do list. Yeah. Some of the problems too, maybe you feel this way, Dean Family, like if I make canning videos or gardening videos, by the time the video is posted, it's too late for that season, like for what people are looking for. And so you're like, do I really want to spend the time making a video on making these pickles? Because by the time it's posted, people will already have dealt with all their cucumbers. They won't really be interested. And then the next year rolls around, and that's when that video really gets hit, and everybody's watching your cucumber or your pickle making video that's been sitting up there waiting for a year. So Daisy says, sounds like a great garden. Yeah, I'm excited. We're not doing anything too crazy, though. I think we will try those loofahs and the dragon beans. Still on the fence about the tomatillos. I just don't know that I would use them enough to be worth the effort in planting, because does anybody use them for anything besides salsa verde? I'd be curious. Becky says, I'm getting excited for spring. Me too, but it can slow down a little bit. I still feel like I have way too much to do to get ready. We're knocking it out step by step. Try not to get too overwhelmed. I try to got the big tasks broken down into steps in my planner. So do a little bit, a couple times a week, and that gets you to the final goal, but it still feels like a whole lot of work ahead of me. Excuse me, grab a drink here. Rosanna says she does her strawberries in raised beds and has good luck with them. Awesome. Now, in the winter, Rosanna, do you have to cover them? Like with the raised beds being so far off the ground, like do you have any issues with them getting too cold? I'd be curious about that. Dean Family says, agreed on them being popular the next year. We have a purple martin house and pole video that's taken off because of the season. Yeah, it always makes me laugh a little bit. There's one video I have about making apple cinnamon syrup using apple peels, and every year in October, that video has been up for like 5 or 6 years, it'll suddenly get another like 3,000 or 4,000 views because everyone's, getting apples from the orchard and they're like, oh, I don't want to throw these peels away. What do I do with them? And somehow the tags on that video hit just right and it pulls it up and a bunch of people will watch it last week of September, first week of October when everyone's peeling their apples from the orchard. So, Bueller Feely says video production can be tough. Yeah, it can be. But we enjoy creating content, and I enjoy talking to all of you too. I always love the live streams. You guys have taught us so much, everybody, through sharing your experiences, which we really appreciate. Because in the end, we're all learning together, and when we can share knowledge, we can all just improve on what we're doing. So, J&B says, I'm always marvel all you do every day. Well, thank you. Some days are super productive, and some days are less. But today was a very productive day. I got a ton done today. So Rosanna said I didn't cover them. They look pretty good. Okay. And Angela says I grow strawberries in raised beds and cover them with frost cloth for winter and it comes back every year. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I don't know if I would bury them in straw or cloth. I would just wonder to protect them if they might need some sort of covering. Let's see. Veronica's here. Welcome. Yes, Sam had to work today. I was just saying earlier, February was kind of weird. He got scheduled for several Mondays, but looking forward, as far as we can look forward, he'll be back. It doesn't look like he will have to work Mondays for a bit. So Janice says you can add fresh sliced tomatillos to grilled cheese sandwiches or to chicken when you bake it. Okay, those are some ideas. Thank you for sharing. Nana says you can fry them like green tomatoes. I do. I really like fried green tomatoes and fried pickles. Well, pretty much fried anything, but those two are really good. The girls and I, a couple years ago, we tried fried dandelion heads, and those were really good. Maybe we'll do that again this year. We made some dandelion jelly, and then we fried the heads and dipped them in ranch, and we made the batter with some like red chili peppers, so they add a little bit of a kick to them. It was really good. Beeler Family says we'll do slowly getting our video and view count up. It's a grind for sure. Yeah, just keep going at it. If it's something you enjoy doing, it's worth it just for the creative outlet. That's really, at the end of the day, like, I like creating content because it gives me something to do that I feel like I am being creative and doing something that I like to do. Because with a lot of kids and a lot of other things going on, you feel like you kind of get lost in the shuffle and it feel a little bit like a robot on automatic, just taking care of everything. And I love being creative and creating videos and showing what we're doing and putting them together. I just have a lot of fun with it. Lately, I've had a lot of fun. I like making the shorts because you get to be a little bit funny sometimes. So if you don't follow us, follow our shorts or our TikTok. Those are real short videos, but a lot of times those are fun because you get to be kind of creative with sounds and content and do different types of things, which is always fun. So that's the garden, though. I think I showed everything. Beeler Family says, it's also pretty cool to be able to go back and see progress, and it's easy to forget you've made. Yes, it is. And it's also fun to go back and laugh at yourself, too, and stupid choices that you made. So, Tinker's wife said, shorts can be a lot of fun to make. Yes. Oh, and your shorts are good. Well, thank you. I have fun making those. I like to be a little bit silly, especially because I feel like it helps you relate to people. It can be difficult to relate with a long video, but we all know the, frustrations that we encounter when we're gardening or canning or something, and sometimes it's fun to poke fun at yourself or the situation that that other people always have problems with too, and share a good laugh about something that we all have in common. So Veronica says, how is Georgia sleeping? Good. She's actually sleeping right now. We got her kind of set up. She knows when it's the daytime and nighttime, so she still, wakes up multiple times a night to eat, which is very normal. She's only 6 weeks, but she isn't up partying at 1 a.m., which is what she was doing her first couple weeks of life. From like 1 to 5 was party time. Nobody was going to sleep. And so now we got that reversed. Now her very awake time is more in the late afternoon, kind of during dinner time. That's when she wants to be, rolling around and play with and have everyone's attention. So that works much better than 1 a.m. I appreciate that. So Becky says, I've tried filming myself a few times, but my goodness, I just sound goofy. I just can't do it. There's actually a word, and I don't remember what it is, but we are naturally like opposed to the sound of our own voices because we never hear ourselves like other people do. And so then when we actually hear it, we're like, oh my gosh, other people have to listen to that sound every time I talk. And we just find it very off-putting. So that's normal. I hate listening to myself talk too when I watch the videos back. So it's a very normal reaction. So don't let that discourage you if creating content and showing and sharing your skills is something that you want to do. Because what bothers you does not bother other people. We are just meant to be off-putted by the sound of our own voice because it doesn't sound right to us because we don't sound like that to ourselves. Didn't know you were TikTok and gave you a follow. Well, thanks for joining us. Yeah, we're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. A lot of the TikTok and YouTube stuff can be kind of similar, but Facebook, if you don't follow us on Facebook, I share a lot of recipes and things and written canning instructions on Facebook. So if you don't always have time to watch a whole video, if you follow us on Facebook, I'll type out a lot of instructions. So that's real easy to like screenshot and save for a day when you want to try canning something. So JB says, glad to hear Georgia has given up the party life. Yes, she has settled down and become a responsible young lady. Beeler family says, first few times of listening is like screech owl engaged. Yeah, nobody likes the sound of their own voice. And Dean family said, you should hear me try to pronounce, I'm not even going to try, Ochita blackberries. I have words that I avoid like the plague because I don't really know how to say them. And a lot of them are spices. If you watch my videos, I rarely say, I think it said cumin, C-U-M-I-N. I will find a way in the video to make it where I have to write it instead of say it. And the other one is the spice, it's orange, if you know what I mean. It's supposed to be really good for you health-wise, and I have absolutely no idea how to say it. And so I never say it. I'm not even going to say it now. And I always find a way to make sure that if I'm sharing a recipe with it, that it's typed on the screen and I don't have to say it, because no matter how I figure out how to say it, I'm sure somebody will laugh at me because it's probably wrong. So let's see. Tinkerer's Wife, I'll have to go to your Facebook page. I'm a fan of written recipes. Yeah, so most of the stuff that I have on YouTube, I will also eventually share on Facebook, but it'll be written. So it's if you don't have time to watch a video, you can catch it that way. Sandy says, oh my gosh, I sound like Ellie Mae Clampett on video. That's funny. Debbie, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, not going to say it, Tinkerer's Wife. I'm not going to say it. I don't know if it's one of those words where you actually say every letter in the word, or if it's like one of those fancy French words where half of them are not pronounced. I'm not convinced, so I always just make sure that I have to type it out. Just say it with authority. Yeah, then everybody, that's true. Then people will believe you because most people probably don't know better anyway. Becky says, I'm from Louisiana and I can't pronounce, I don't even know what that word is supposed to sound like. Ochita. Ochita. I don't know. Tinkerer's Wife said you can say it either way. It's not fancy French. J&B says it's turmeric. Turmeric. I feel like my mom, Grammy, you can correct me on this. I feel like my mom says turmeric, but doesn't say the R. And it may be because where we grew up on the East Coast, and that's how they said it. But I second guess myself every time, so I don't say it. So, all right, I'm gonna go put some other little people to bed. I have enjoyed talking with you all tonight. Next time Sam should be back, I think we're gonna probably talk about chickens because we got some chicks coming, and we'll talk about what we're doing with the chickens and the ducks and the geese to grow our poultry flock, which is always fun to talk about some strange varieties and some changes that we're doing. So appreciate you all. We hope you have a great night. Everybody stay warm and stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Take care.